The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry has said at least 110 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes on a northern part of the Gaza Strip since Sunday. Meanwhile, the group Human Rights Watch has accused the Israeli government of intentionally starving civilians in Gaza as part of its offensive in the besieged Palestinian territory. Good evening, I'm Abhyuday Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal claims local levels have received adequate authority. Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah urges to resolve problems created by disputed laws. Government warns of taking action against manpower companies who send people abroad without skill development training. Around 1 million people leave Nepal annually in search of better job opportunities. Hamas officials say at least 110 Palestinians killed in Israeli airstrikes in Jabalia in northern Gaza, 4 Palestinians killed in Nusayrat and Al-Farah refugee camps. And Fluminense taking on Al-Ahly in the FIFA World Cup semi-finals tonight. The match scheduled to kick off at 11:45 p.m. Nepal time. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal has said that the local levels have been able to exercise their authority adequately after the introduction of republicanism and federalism in the country. Speaking at a program held to celebrate the 150th Establishment Day of Lalitpur Metropolis today, Premier Dahal stated that federalism has given rights to the people. Prime Minister Dahal expressed concern about the growing inclination towards negative activities in the country. Premier Dahal said local level public representatives only complain of the federal government not extending help, however, failed to mention about the initiations taken by the government and the corporation extended. Speaking at the program, Mayor of Kathmandu Metropolis, Balendra Shah, said that some local level laws contradict with federal laws and urged to resolve the problem. Mayor of Lalitpur Metropolis, Chiri Babu Maharjan, also urged for the construction of intersection flyover and underpass at Sadobato and Chapagaon like those being constructed at Gwarko, Lalitpur. At the program, Dayaram Maharjan, Purna Vishwakarma Stapit, Ishwar Maharjan, among others, were handed the Metropolis Glory Award for their contribution in areas of art, culture, heritage conservation, and literature. It's International Migration Day today. The annual celebration on 18th of December is also observed in Nepal, seeking to establish rights of the migrant workers and their family members. The migration and cross-flow of people in terms of foreign employment, works, better life and education has shot up in recent time. According to International Labour Organization, there are about 2.75 billion migrants, half of which have migrated for job employment. In Nepal too, about 1 million people leave their homes in search of better job opportunities. The primary employment destination of migrant workers from Nepal are Gulf countries and Malaysia. In the face of Nepali migrant workers having to cope with problems including life-threatening, the government has warned the human resource companies of scrapping their licenses if the workers are sent abroad without skill development training and orientation. The Ministry of Labour has also stated that it is going to review the provision of free visa and free ticket for the migrant workers. The government has said that it has carried out various efforts to make foreign employment safer and more dignified. The government has also struck labour agreements with 12 nations to ensure the rights of the migrants, while similar agreements are in the process with 8 other nations. Concerned authorities have been urged to provide security, consciousness and justice to the Nepali migrant workers who have been swindled and are suffering. Speakers at the program held in Janakpur Dham to observe World Immigration Day today drew the attention of concerned authorities to value the contribution to the country made by those who are abroad for foreign employment. Meanwhile, the Madhya Pradesh province government informed it is preparing to establish the Chief Minister Employment Program for those returning from foreign employment. A farmer in Hariwan Sarlai has started a fast unto death from today, demanding for a justified price for this season's cultivated sugar cane. Farmer Sheikh Istihar started his fast unto death today in front of the gate of Indu Shankar Sugar Mill in Hariwan. Istihar has said that he was compelled to start the hunger strike after no one paid any concern to their strike ongoing since 3 days. As the minimum support price for sugarcane has not been allocated, farmers have not been able to sell their cash crop. The farmers are protesting, saying that this season's sugarcane price should be 750 rupees per quintal due to the increase in sugar price and production cost. Due to the protest by the farmers, the sugar mill in Hariwan has not been able to crush sugarcane. The price of sugarcane was set at 610 rupees per quintal last year. The Trishuli 3B hydropower project, being constructed with a joint investment of the Nepal Electricity Authority and Nepal Telecom, has scrapped its agreement with the contractor company. The 37 megawatt project had been contracted to Chinese Suifa ANHE Group. The company had been contracted for the construction of all the infrastructure related to civil, electromechanical, and hydromechanical and equipment design, installation and operation, among others. However, the authority decided to scrap the agreement due to lack of substantial progress since 1 year. So far, 66% of the construction has completed. This will result in the forfeiture of the company's performance bond. The authority has directed promoter company Trishuli Hydropower Company to contract a new company within a month's time to conclude remaining works of the project. The project had been initiated with a completion target by mid-March 2024, 3 years ago. However, Chinese workers who had returned home for the Chinese New Year were unable to resume work due to COVID restrictions. The project halted for 15 months due to the pandemic. The Trishuli 3B project will not need to construct a dam and ponds, among others, as the authority already has a cascade with the 60 megawatt capacity Upper Trishuli 3A hydropower project. Welcome back. It's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. Here's the question. What's your take on the Prime Minister's statement that the ministers and secretaries have failed to work as per directive? Your options are A, helpless Prime Minister, B, lack of accountability, and C, political ploys. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And it's time now for the international updates. At least 110 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes in Jabalia in northern Gaza, according to Hamas officials. Israel Defense Forces, IDF, has also hit Nuseirat refugee camp and Al-Farah refugee camp in the occupied West Bank, where 4 Palestinians, including 2 children, have been killed. Israel has continued to insist it is targeting what it calls terrorist infrastructure. Witnesses and some local journalists say that at least 4 Israeli missiles struck 3 buildings inside the Jabalia refugee camp last night. Around 30 others are trapped beneath the remains of the 3 buildings. Jabalia, part of which is long-standing refugee camp, is in the north of Gaza, an area where since the early days of the war, Israel has warned people to leave. The health ministry in Gaza, which is run by Hamas, says more than 18,700 people have been killed and 50,000 injured in the enclave since the start of the Gaza war. Meanwhile, over the weekend, 3 of Israel's allies have called for the fighting in Gaza to end. UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron teamed up with Germany's Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock to call for a ceasefire of the Israel-Gaza war, adding only if it's sustainable. The UK and Germany had earlier last week abstained over a United Nations resolution backed by 153 countries demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. According to AFP news agency, there is a new resolution planned for today, drawn up by the United Arab Emirates, calling for an urgent and sustainable cessation of hostilities in Gaza. The new resolution also calls for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages and affirms support for a 2-state solution. The U.S. blocked a previous Security Council resolution calling for a humanitarian ceasefire. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin arrived in Israel earlier today for talks expected to focus on Israel's eventual end to its high-intensity war in Gaza and transition to a more limited, focused conflict, and sat down with his counterpart Yoav Gallant. For Austin, the trip is a delicate balancing act. He has steadfastly supported Israel's right to defend itself following Palestinian militant group Hamas's surprise October 7 attacks. But he has also become increasingly vocal about the plight of civilians in Gaza as Israeli strikes drive up casualties. A senior U.S. defense official told reporters traveling with Austin that talks with Gallant would deal with Israel's planning for a transition to the next phase of the war, and that he planned to talk with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Austin is accompanied by the chairman of the U.S. military's Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General C.Q. Brown, Jr. At least 8 people were killed and 84 injured after a blast at an oil terminal in Guinea's capital, Conakry, early today. A huge fire and billowing black smoke was captured on video shot from a distance as firefighters rushed to the area, while several tanker trucks left the depot, escorted by soldiers and police. The explosion at the West African nation's main oil terminal rocked the Kaloum administrative district in downtown Conakry, blowing out the windows of several nearby homes and forcing hundreds to flee. Later in the day, a thick column of smoke and some flames were still visible after firefighters brought the fire under control. The origin of the fire was unknown, the government said in a statement, adding that an investigation would be launched. After North Korea fired an intercontinental ballistic missile earlier in the day, China has said it hoped relevant parties involved would take actions to maintain peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. South Korea and Japan said the ICBM fired by North Korea had a range to hit anywhere in the United States. It was North Korea's second missile launch in hours as Pyongyang condemned a U.S.-led show of force as war moves. Coinciding with the North's fifth ICBM launch of the year, China and North Korea held a high-level meeting in Beijing today. In another context, China has said it will take resolute and forceful measures to safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity, and has made representations with the United States over its arms sales to Taiwan. According to Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin, Beijing will also take measures against relevant enterprises involved in the arms sales to Taiwan. The U.S. State Department approved a $300 million sale of equipment to help maintain Taiwan's tactical information systems, the latest U.S. assistance for the island's defenses. The United States is bound by law to provide Taiwan, which China claims as its territory, with the means to defend. Heavy snowfall disrupted transportation in parts of East China, including Anhui and Jiangsu provinces today. Long queues of vehicles were seen on roads as the snow and ice caused slippery driving conditions. Low temperatures will prevail until Thursday, according to the national forecaster, with northern areas, Inner Mongolia, and some areas around the Yangtze River expected to be 7 degrees Celsius lower than is typical. Meanwhile, schools in Beijing reopened today after classes were moved online last week as cold snaps hit large parts of the country. Iraqis voted today in the first provincial council elections in a decade, with the ruling Shiite Muslim alliance likely to extend its grip on power amid a boycott by populist cleric Muqtada al-Sadr, its main political rival. The vote is seen as a test of Iraq's young democracy installed by the U.S. after the toppling of Saddam Hussein in 2003 before 2025 parliamentary elections that will determine the balance of power in a nation where groups with close ties to Iran have gained ground in politics and the economy in recent years. Voter apathy has been on the rise among a mostly young population that feels it has not seen the benefits of Iraq's massive oil wealth, much of which is misdirected or stolen in a country ranked among the world's most corrupt. Senior politicians called for a high turnout in statements released after they cast their votes at a center set up for top officials in a plush hall at one of Baghdad's finest hotels. More than 16 million Iraqis registered to vote today, but fewer than in 2021's parliamentary polls, when authorities said 22 million were eligible. Turnout then was 41% of eligible voters. Local elections last took place in 2013. They were postponed because of the war against Islamic State militants who took over large parts of Iraq but were eventually defeated. Security in the country has improved gradually since then, and public focus has shifted to decrepit government services, high unemployment, and rampant corruption, issues at the heart of 2019 mass protests that were violently suppressed by security forces. In a dazzling display of festive spirit, Rome kicked to full swing as the Christmas lights along Via del Corso, dedicated to the universal theme of peace. The luminous carpet that stretches from Piazza Venezia to Piazza del Popolo measures 1,400 meters in length and comprises 18 strings of warm white LED lights. The decoration is composed of 300,000 points of light in total and form the word pace or peace in various languages, including French, German, and Spanish bright stars. This year, the 10-meter-long Christmas tree at the ancient Capitoline Hill is dedicated to the Italian Constitution with a large interactive multimedia book through which videos on constitutional charter can be seen. That's all for the moment. Our next English bulletin will air at 10:30 tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.